As many of you know, President Donald Trump is going to be visiting Israel on May 22nd. And many in the Bible prophecy world was kind of expecting him to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, make that announcement. But some of the reports that I had heard, and I had passed that along to some of you, that that wasn't really in the cards, especially for Israel. In fact, there were reports coming in that basically the Israeli leadership had requested that Trump not make that announcement now. In fact, they did not feel that now was a good time. But frankly, I don't know when would be a good time, but they're a little worried about what could become of that. And reading from the article, it says, however, the expectation currently is that Trump will push Israel to renew negotiations with the Palestinian Authority, who will be the main focus of Trump's visit. Now, switching over to another article that I read, it says, according to the London-based Al Hayat, Trump is expected to announce a trilateral summit with the two leaders during his one-day visit to Israel and the Palestinian Authority on May 22nd. Palestinian officials told the paper that a joint U.S.-Palestinian commitment had begun laying the groundwork for Abbas and Trump's second meeting after he hosted Abbas at the White House on, and it says April 3rd, but actually it was May 3rd. The officials said that they expect Trump to call for direct talks between Israel and the PA over the course of 9 months to a year. Well, every president who has been in office has made that same declaration, and they've expected that. At the White House last week, Abbas reportedly told Trump that his negotiations with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert nearly a decade ago should form the basis of any future peace talks with Netanyahu. And, you know, if you guys were watching this situation back about 10 years ago when former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert was in negotiations with Abbas, the bottom line is I think the Lord put a stop to those negotiations because Olmert was essentially giving away virtually all of the West Bank and putting Israel in harm's way. In fact, here's what the article says. It says Olmert said in 2015 that during his negotiations with Abbas, he had offered a near total withdrawal of the West Bank, proposing that Israel retain 6.3% of the territory in order to keep control of major Israeli population centers. He said he had offered to compensate the Palestinians with Israeli land equivalent to 5.8% of the West Bank, along with a link to the Gaza Strip. He also said he offered to withdraw from Arab neighborhoods of East Jerusalem and place the old city, home to Jerusalem's most sensitive holy sites, under international control. He described the offer to give up Israeli control of the old city as the hardest day of his life. Well, thankfully, Mr. Abbas turned that deal down, as sweet as it was. But now he wants it back. In fact, that's kind of where he's leading in the Trump negotiations, where he's trying to get Mr. Trump to agree that the starting point should be at these percentage figures. Well, we'll have to see exactly what does transpire from that. You know, it wouldn't shock me if Mr. Trump did try to put this previous deal back on the table. In fact, that may be the confirmation that the Bible speaks of. Yes, but of course that is speculation on my part. But I would hope that Mr. Netanyahu would have enough sense not to give into such ridiculous land swaps that basically Israel's given back completely all of the West Bank. And here's a picture of basically what would be the land swap in which Israel would have to live with if they were to agree with what Olmert and Abbas agreed to, or didn't agree to, I should say, back 10 years ago. But we'll have to just wait and see how this transpires in a couple of months. And let's face it, the peace accord is not going to be met nor finalized in a number of 3 weeks. This is simply just a starting point, just like every other peace accord that has taken place over the decades. And certainly they all seem to have promise at the beginning, but several months into it, a year into it, it usually implodes. And besides all that, the Bible is pretty clear that the Antichrist, or the person who will bring this peace, between Israel and many will come out of the European Union. And he will also be a leader of a 10-nation kingdom. You know, I hear some people say, well, that means the world is divided up into 10 different sectors. No, that's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that these 10 nations, or these 10 leaders, will lend him their power. And I can tell you right now, there's nobody going to lend President Trump his power. He's the head of the most powerful nation in the world. He doesn't need anybody to lend him power. And one other thing, 10 nations didn't bring him into power. So right now there are a lot of holes in the fact that he could be the Antichrist. But I did want to bring this information to your attention and let you keep an eye on what is about to happen. And if you don't know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. You know, 150,000 people are going to die today. The Bible says that the vast majority of them are going to end up in a burning hell. Don't let that happen to you. Call on the name of the Lord, ask him to save you. It's really that simple. And you that are Christians, you need to get a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. Go down to the description area under this video, and you'll find where you can go to either get the paperback version or you can get the free digital version. And the digital version is written in 9 different languages. But if I were you, I would get as many of these books as I possibly can. I mean the paperback book. So you can physically hand your lost loved one this book, so that when in fact the rapture does take place and if they are left behind, they'll have this book to guide them through the most horrible time period the world's ever known. And frankly, for my lost loved ones, and I've given all my lost loved ones a copy of this book, I don't want the world to tell them what the next steps they need to take are to get through this time period. You need to get this book in their hand. And the first thing it's going to tell them is that they need the Lord. And you know, the good thing is they may get saved beforehand. So I would recommend and encourage you to get this book and purchase it, get it in their hands, so that if in fact they are left behind, they will have a guide. And not only a guide, but a very accurate guide of what is going to happen in the future. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.